So we recently had the Bluegrass Bash aquarium convention, joint convention of the American Live Bear Association, International Beta Congress, and American Cichlid Association. My club was a co-host of the event. It was co-hosted by the club here in Lexington and the club in Louisville, and I want to thank everyone that was able to make it out, but there was stuff that you didn't see that happened that I thought this would be a good opportunity to share and talk about the things that happened behind the scenes that not everyone saw. So stay tuned and we'll talk about it. So a lot happened behind the scenes at the Bluegrass Bash that not everyone knows about, not everyone saw. They saw me and the other staff members running around doing things, but didn't realize what we were actually doing, what all was involved. And that's a good thing, that we wanted everyone to have a good time and not worry about the little things. We wanted things to fall into place and be a good experience for everyone. So I don't have a whole lot of footage, but I'll share the footage or pictures where I have it, because when I was, as the saying goes, putting out fires or fixing things or doing what needed to be done, I wasn't thinking, let's video this. So let's start at the very beginning. How did we get the 3 different groups here in Kentucky doing this massive convention, and how did it all come about? Well, the way that works is a club has to put in a bid, kind of like a contractor bidding for a job. We submit a bid to a organization. In this case, I was speaking to one of the board members with the American Live Bear Association about my club having interest in hosting a convention at some point, and one thing led to another, and my club had never hosted an event. We're under 10 years old, so that was something that was kind of going against us, and it came up. The Louisville club, and when I say my club, I'm talking about the club in Lexington. The Louisville club has hosted multiple conventions, has had successful conventions, and has been around for 50, 60 years. So the discussion came up and the suggestion of, how about the Louisville club and the Lexington club co-host? Because the Louisville club has the experience and knows how to do it, and they've had successful ones, and the Lexington club, it's their first time. So kind of like the Lexington club hosted and the Louisville club kind of supervise and make sure everything gets going. And that's where it began. Was we were to be hosting, we were to put in a bid for, let's go with that. We put in a bid for hosting the American Live Bear Association here in Lexington, and it was going to be our first convention. When it's just an ALA convention, it's not a super huge convention. It's a more, what's the word? More of an intimate convention, a smaller thing, just a few speakers. You've got an auction, you've got a vendor room. It's real easier to manage than a super convention with multiple groups in it. We put in the bid, and it was accepted. and so we got the bid to host the ALA convention, and this was last year before the convention in Texas actually took place. So it was on the complete down low. We couldn't tell anybody that we had the 2026 bid that we were going to be hosting, and couldn't release that information until after the Texas convention was going on, pretty much was over. Announced it at the banquet. So we're looking at that, and they asked, well, which hotel or which convention center or whatever, and so I said, hey, let's check that one right there beside the interstate first. It said it has a convention center and looks like a decent sized hotel right there beside the interstate, and so it was drawn up to a proposal to offer to the hotel of, this is what we would like to do, here's what we suggest as far as rates and what we would like to get from the deal, and took it to the hotel. The hotel, we did some negotiating there, and the hotel said, sure, let's do that. Right after we got the hotel's deal worked out, I got a call, said, hey, the ACA wants to join. Would you be okay with having a joint convention of the ACA and the ALA? And that's unusual because the ACA is a much larger organization than the ALA, and they usually have big conventions and a lot going on, and it's not like them to be going and asking to join a smaller convention. The ACA had a lot going on, and I didn't know at the time what the whole mess that was going on with the ACA. You may have heard of what was going on with the litigation that they're going through right now with a former treasurer allegedly taking money and all that kind of stuff. And with that going on, and I didn't know anything about that, and there was some internal drama, because when you find out that stuff that shouldn't have been happening in the club happened in the club, even if it was just one person involved, it starts getting questioned of, well, didn't anybody check? Why didn't you check? Why didn't you check? Well, why am I supposed to check? Why couldn't you check? We'll leave all that drama set aside of what all's been going on with them, but all I knew was the ACA had come asking if they can join us, and my response was, yeah, we can handle the ACA, bring it on. The thing going through my head was, I had previously been told that we wouldn't be able to create a club in this area of Kentucky, that we wouldn't be able to maintain a club in this area of Kentucky, and I had been told that we could never host a convention. You tell me that I can't do something, that I can't make something work, and the redneck comes out in me. I'm like, oh yeah, watch this. I got some duct tape, I've got some zip ties, I got a reciprocating saw. I can make it happen. So ACA asks to join, and I say, bring it on, let's do it. The ACA knew what was going on. Other people, other clubs knew what was going on with them, and why they were just wanting to like slide in and join the smaller convention and just get a convention done and move on. And I didn't know this stuff. No big deal. But it had some impact on the convention itself. The ACA, they when they brought it to me, it was, well, I don't think we should have a fish show. I'm like, you gotta have a fish show, even a small one. It's not an ACA convention if you don't have a show. You want people coming that's been coming to their first convention to see fish, so you need to have a show. And some negotiating there, and we landed on a really small, only 50 tank, 50 entry cichlid show. And I would have loved for it to be larger, but a small show is better than no show. And with all of this, they also said they didn't want to do an auction on Sunday, that there was other stuff that they needed to be doing and all this kind of stuff. And I tried to argue for an auction on Sunday, and that's one that I didn't get my way with. I don't always get my way. So settled on a swap on Sunday instead of an auction. Swaps are fun, but they're not the same as an auction. One of the things that came up was, what should we call the thing? Because if you're not familiar with these conventions, each year they move around in different cities, and they come up with a name for the convention. In 2022, it was in Louisville, and it started off with 3 groups together, and they called it the Triple Crown because of the horse racing and being in Louisville, and there was 3 groups. It evolved after that, but they still called it the Triple Crown. Then it was like last year, it was in Texas. It was the Lone Star Convention. One year it was in Kalamazoo with 2 groups, and it was called the Two in the Zoo. Being in Tampa, it might have been called like Back at the Bay or something. It's always something dealing with what's going on, where it is, or something like that. So we were coming up with different ideas, and some of the ideas that were thrown out there were names of conventions or events that already happened, that are already in existence in other parts of the country, other fish events. And so we didn't want to like call it, one of those other names that's already being used. And we came up with different ones, and one idea was the Bluegrass Bash. Of course, that was what it ended up being called. And another idea that was come up with was to call it the Kentucky Fish Convention, and kind of use that as a little twist, play on words. Kentucky Fish Convention, KFC, and I threw a real quick, like, AI generated image of an idea out there of, if we wanted to go this route, we could use this type of idea to create an image for a logo and a mascot. And that was the idea of like a fish with like the Colonel Sanders suit, and kind of go with that. I had no idea that they were going to pick both Bluegrass Bash and Kentucky Fish Convention and kind of try to merge them together. So that created confusion a little down the road, as we were calling it the Bluegrass Bash, and then they were printing KFC Kentucky Fish Convention on the shirts and other things. But we all knew what it was by the end. I get the message of, hey, the beta folks want to join. What do you think about having a live bear, cichlid, and beta convention? And that's where I said, the more the merrier. If you know of any other groups that want to join in, let's make it a big convention. They said we couldn't ever host a convention. Let's make it a convention to remember. So that's how the beta group got in on it, and we now had cichlid convention, live bear convention, and a beta convention all together in one place. We had to go renegotiate with a hotel because we thought it's just the ALA. It's going to be 75 to 100 people show up. real small, and now we've got the largest convention of its type this year. It's going to happen right there in Lexington. Lexington's never had a convention before, nothing like this. So renegotiated it and all that kind of stuff, and got that all settled. We'll fast forward a little bit. We did some stuff where we contacted companies to be sponsors and to donate stuff for the silent auction and the goodie bags and all of that. The speakers, we had a lineup of 11 speakers, and this was really early on, so that by the time the convention came around, we had issues pop up that some of the speakers couldn't make it because of their scheduling. Some of the speakers had other obligations that they knew they were going to have, but they didn't know when it was going to happen, and it turns out it was the same weekend, so they had to cancel. We had different things that we had speakers that couldn't make it, so they had to drop out. So we had to reach out to different people to try to find speakers to fill the 11 spots. We didn't have to have 11 speakers, but it kind of fills the schedule up of when when we were planning on having speakers. And we were able to get 10 speakers. So we were doing good, had it all planned out. We had help from across the country, different members of the ACA and ALA doing things. And something that I wish that had happened better, just because I haven't done a convention before and I felt lost in this, is communication. We had meetings now and then. Not everyone that was doing something was in on the meetings, and not everyone that could have done something was involved in the meetings, and not all the information was getting shared back and forth. So who all was sponsors? Not everybody knew that. The handful of us knew that. Who all was vendors? Not everybody knew that. Just a couple people knew that. And with that, having just a siloed approach to it, that this person or these group of people over here knew this part of it, and these people or this person knew this part of it, and so on all the way across, we get a little issues there that as we get closer to time, for example, the person that was in charge of and had the list of and all of that, the vendor room, couldn't make the event. So we had to find out who signed up to be vendors. That person gave us a layout, and we found out later that it was a kind of a rough draft layout that wasn't really scaled to the actual room itself. And there was tables set by doors that didn't exist and all that. But that's a small issue that we were able to overcome. There was small miscommunication issues between the different silos of the convention that, for example, the people getting the sponsorships, when you get a certain level of sponsorship that the company donates a certain amount of money or product or something like that, one of the perks that we had was they would get so much square footage in the vendor room. The people getting the sponsorships, like reaching out to companies and stuff, thought that the person dealing with the vendor room was contacting the sponsors that reached that level and notifying them that they had achieved the level to get that perk, to get that much square footage in the vendor room. The vendor room person thought the sponsorship silo was doing that, and in the end, there was a number of the larger sponsors that donated products and money and stuff that, come to find out, had fallen through the cracks and no one told them that they had that much floor space allocated for the vendor room. So that's one of the issues that we faced, and we found that out on Tuesday, I believe it was. That Tuesday of the week that the convention's happening, one of the larger sponsors told us that they hadn't been told that they had vendor space and they weren't prepared for that, and we find out that that's the issue with a few of the others. So minor miscommunications, minor lack of communications, that we didn't get things communicated between the different silos. It was little hurdles that we had to jump over. So we got the signage printed up, the name tags printed up, and on the back of the name tags we were printing the schedules and stuff like that. And we locked in that 11th speaker. So we got the 11th speaker after the schedules were printed. So the big signs that were up in the hallways and stuff, that's why they were missing one of the talks, because they were printed before the 11th speaker said that they could do it, and we got that all lined out. So that caused a little issues with the printing of the back of the cards, because now they weren't fully correct and all of this, but minor hurdle that we can move forward with. We had to get everything set up in the showroom, in the fish show. So we had all of the tanks and stuff. We had that shipped in and stored in a warehouse there in Lexington. The racking system to put the stands and stuff on, to put the tanks and stuff on for the show, that was in Louisville. And we had basically, let's call it a garage worth of products and stuff in storage in another small town about 30 minutes away from Lexington. On Father's Day, the Sunday before the convention, we had people from both clubs, both Lexington and Louisville, show up. So the people from the Lexington club showed up at the Lexington warehouse and the storage space that was 30 minutes away from Lexington to get that stuff. They showed up with trucks and lots of people to help carry stuff. And the people from Louisville showed up at the storage facility in Louisville to get the rack systems and the stuff that was still there, and loaded up trucks on all three spots and converged on the hotel that Sunday morning and offloaded it, set the racks up, wrapped them, set the tanks out, and started filling them. And working on airlines and stuff like you would set up a fish room. The rack system, the stands that were used, they were built probably 70 years ago. And so they take a little finagling to get them to work right. No big deal. The air system, like the manifolds to put all the airlines in, I don't know when it was put together, but it had to be around the same time, because some of the fittings were starting to corrode and break off, and it was taped together and stuff like that. So that's the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see. Is it took a lot of babying and tweaking to get it to fit right, to get the airlines on and all the filters running just right. But we got that set up. Got a bunch of the 2-gallon tanks for the Live Bearer show. And Tuesday morning, I'm at the hotel, 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that. and FedEx truck pulls up and starts unloading pallets. You know, the 4 feet by 4 feet pallets that are like 4 feet tall, wrapped all in that plastic wrap stuff. Mind you, 8 o'clock in the morning on the Tuesday, I'm the only one there. And the guy's bringing in pallet after pallet of stuff for the convention and leaving it in the lobby. And I'm like, no big deal. We will get the hotel's pallet jack whenever other people get here, and we'll get it moved to where it needs to go, because I noticed some was for the vendor room and some was for the goodie bags and some was for different things. And I called the other guys to say, hey, stuff's arriving, just want to let you know it's here, it's safe, I've got it under control. And they told me they would be there in a little bit and all that kind of stuff. So they get there and we ask the hotel staff about a pallet jack, and we're informed that they don't have a pallet jack. So we get creative, like we do. There's a lot of guys standing around. There's a big cart sitting over there that they put the 6-foot tables on, and they stack the 6-foot tables up to push it to the different rooms. So if we get 6 or so, 8, how many ever guys, can we lift a pallet up on that cart and push it down the hallway to the vendor room? If you weren't at the Bluegrass Bash, the vendor room, the access to the vendor room was down a narrow hallway that sloped one way or the other, and it kind of leaned to the side a little bit. The floor did. It wasn't level, it wasn't just sloping one direction, it was sloping in 2 directions. And it's narrow. So we manhandled the pallets one at a time up on this cart and pushed it down this sloping hallway to the vendor room. And that cart did not want to turn properly on the inclines and with the pallet weight on it. But we managed to maneuver it down through there and get it in the vendor room and offload it. I think there was 3 or 4 pallets that ended up needing to go in there. And then moving on with another part of the vendor room issues that we faced. When we were setting up the vendor room, we realized, we was looking at the map that we had been sent, looking at the list of vendors that we'd been sent, realizing that some of the large vendors weren't going to be there because they didn't know that they had spots and didn't have the availability to be there. And we had to maneuver things because the map that we had been given was like gridded out with this many feet this way and this many feet that way, and the room wasn't that size or shape. But we got a small team together to work on that and see which booths needed electric and can we get them by an outlet, because this wall over here has tons of electric, that wall over there has none, this wall back here has 2 outlets. So we had to kind of work with that as well. So that team worked on that, getting everything set up. We went to fill tanks with the water source that we were pointed to by the hotel staff. And as the water started coming out of the hose for the fish that were going to be put in it in the next moment or two, we noticed the water was steaming. And apparently the water source that they had given us was coming from an inline water heater that they used to fill their pool, and it was coming out about 98 degrees. So we had to work with that and have work with evaporative cooling to cool the water enough to get the fish in there and acclimate the fish so that they're not shocked by going from traveling how many ever hours to going into really warm water. So we've got that. We realized the vendor room is really cold after a while. And we talked to the hotel staff, and that's the way that room does, because the thermostat's been bypassed and the AC is either fully on or fully off. So we have to negotiate and let it get warm enough that it's starting to be a little too warm, and then kick the AC on and let it run long enough that it's just a little too cool, and then kick it back off, and do that for the entire convention. And that's, you know, part of the thing that we had to do, and it not be a fiasco for everyone to, you know, not have a good time. Some of the vendors thought it was a Saturday, Sunday event only, so they didn't show up till Saturday. Some of them showed up and left by Friday. Okay, stuff happens. Vendor room could have been bigger, could have been better, but I think it was a good turnout compared to other conventions that I have seen before. We had more than some of the other conventions that I've been to before. With the ACA's legal issues coming out, hearing there wasn't a auction on Sunday, hearing that the Babes stuff was all changing, there was people that decided they weren't going to come this year because they didn't know what was going on, that it wasn't what they were used to. So that was a hurdle that we had to face. We tried to do some advertising, but the advertising was in a siloed compartment also, so the people over here didn't know what was happening with the advertising. So some people weren't informed that the event was even happening. You all know me, I was putting out live streams and posts and Facebook posts and talking about it everywhere I was to try to get people there. Because it's local, and I want people that's locally here to see fish they haven't seen, see what a convention's like. The Babes didn't have their silent auction, but we threw together a silent auction just the same. We got donations from companies across the country and even internationally. We got donations from local artists. We got donations from local pet stores. All kinds of donations to put out to raise money and through the silent auction, similar to how the Babes did. So we got the showroom all set up. The vendor room's going. So the showroom, I'm kind of over that most of the thing, because, you know, I fought to get the Cichlid show, so I need to make sure that it happens and happens good. And so I'm finding out that the labels that go in the tank tell what the fish are. 2 different people had been told that the other one is taking care of that. And here it is Monday, and nobody's taking care of it. So I make a trip out, get the labels, get them, make some phone calls to get the labels printed up, stay up late typing them up, and make sure that we have the labels. And the way that it worked on my side of it, when someone brought their fish in, because I had contacted all of the people that had entered the show and said, what fish are you bringing? As they told me, I had typed it in there. So as the people brought their fish in for the show, they would put their fish in the tank, and I would remove the label that had their name on it off the tank and put the label that had the name of the fish on it. So just so that it would be anonymous to the judges. The judges wouldn't know whose fish each one was. Of course, everyone didn't show up at the same time to drop their fish off. So we had the issue of we had to wait until the people would be there and put some in the tank with the names on it, and some would show up later and stuff. I tried to sneak out to go eat lunch one day, and came back, and the stack of my labels that I had laid out on the table there at my little station to label the tanks people brought the fish in, they were gone. All my labels were gone. So I don't know what happened to them, and I'm kind of wondering, I was like, well, I guess I gotta go get new labels to handwrite them. So as I'm headed to go get new labels to handwrite all the fish names and stuff, I see a couple pages of my labels in the trash can. So I dig those out, but it's not all of them. So I do go get some blank labels, and the ones that I wasn't able to recover or find, I had to handwrite them. That's why if you see my video on the cichlid show, that's why some of them are printed and some of them are handwritten, because my labels got thrown away in the middle of it. We had two large brute trash cans for water changing. Put the clean water in one and put the dirty water in the other. That way we can, maneuver it out, because there's no water in the fish show room. One of those disappeared. But I found it later in the vendor's room. They were using it to evaporative cool that hot water that's coming out of their spigot. Different little things. My video's going really long, so let's speed through the things. Fish that were donated for the auction and for the display tanks, they got shipped to the wrong airport, and so instead of coming to the Lexington airport, they went to the Louisville airport, so we had to send somebody to drive to the Louisville airport to pick up the fish, and because of that they got there a day late. And that's why if you look at the videos of the main hallways and stuff, you see the tanks set up and there's no fish in them. That's why, because they got delayed in getting shipped out, then they went to the wrong airport, and then when we did pick them up, we would have put them in the tanks to take them back out to bag them up to go to the auction. So there wasn't a whole lot of point in that. And previous conventions, they would have went into, say, the Sunday auction, but we weren't having a Sunday auction. The auctions were all on Friday night. So not having the Sunday auction was causing some problems, but I understand they had other things going on. It was a good time, a good event, and there's a lot more stuff that went on. I'm noticing how long the video is going, and I'm leaving out. There was other issues and stuff that we tried to get past so that everyone in attendance would have a good time and not be hindered by doors not getting unlocked at the right time because someone lost a key or whatever. So if you attended the Bluegrass Bash, let me know what you thought. Did you see all the little hiccups? I know if you were there and you paid attention to what I'm doing, I'm always running back and forth. I would go out to get something to eat. As soon as I sit down to get something to eat, I'd get 2 phone calls and say, hey, we need you here, we need you there. Someone's looking for you. I was running all over the place trying to, as the analogy that I've been using was, put duct tape over the holes so that everybody else doesn't see the little holes in the event. But what did you think? Did you see any of our little hiccups that we were having? And what did you think about it? If you have any specific questions about how we did something or why something was a certain way, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. It was my first time hosting a convention solely. I've helped set them up. I didn't host solely, but as such a large component of the hosting. I've helped set conventions up and helped break conventions down through other clubs, but my club has never had this much hands-on experience with it. So it was a good learning experience, and the majority of the people that helped with it in my local club enjoyed the experience enough that they're asking about doing another one someday which is a good thing because a lot of times people that help with the club with conventions are like, okay, we got that over with, let's not do that again for a long time. But it's a lot of fun. It's I wish there was 2 or 3 of me to get me around more, to be able to hang out with people, be able to watch more talks and shop more. But we pulled it off this year and had a great time. I hope you had a great time if you were there. Let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to you later.